with the suffering there, how do you meet it? How do you meet it? What do you do in that moment when you're facing that intense suffering? Do you wither away and die, metaphorically? Or do you actually take control of your life and use that suffering to help you become stronger, more courageous, more innovative, more creative, and happier in the long run?
Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Mental Purpose Podcast, where our mission, you know it, if you're listening to this show. If you don't, then here you go, is to elevate, educate, empower, enrich, and evolve men to be on purpose, so they can reveal their most authentic self and they can live the most fulfilling and regret-free life possible. It's awesome, right? It's freaking awesome. Now, this episode, my guest is Forrest Rivers. The guy's just a plethora of information. And I like this interview and I like Forrest because he takes the subject of COVID and he gives you just a little bit of a different viewpoint on it. Whereas COVID was painted as a very negative thing, at least in my experience, and people got hurt, people died, people lost people got sick. There were, tragedies. And what he did with his book, COVID-19 and Humanity's Spiritual Awakening, was paint a whole new picture of this awakening that COVID provided for us if you took that challenge on, or if you took that on, or that's how you viewed it, or that was your choice about it. I had that. My 2020 was, I thought, one of the best years of my life. There was a huge transition, huge pivot from our former career in real estate to just full out in with our coaching businesses that we had been running for quite a long time. I was just afraid, honestly. I was fearful of putting everything that I had into it. And what if it didn't work? And so in this, we're going to be talking about ego and identity and higher purpose and choices and community compassion and suffering and fear of death and creation and destruction and checking in with yourself and service to the world and taking inventory of your life and everything in between. This is a really powerful interview. So before we get started, remember our free resources. We've got the Men on Purpose community on Facebook. It's free. There's like 200 plus members in there now at this point. And we've got, all kinds of different things. We've got different clubs. We've got different groups that are meeting. There's a ton of stuff. And Aaron and I continue to press and push more value, and everything is just there for you to consume. Obviously, you got this podcast. And the other thing you got is our ebook, The Purpose-Driven Formula. It's free. It's a little mini course. It's like 2 hours. It's me coaching you on video, taking you through the Purpose-Driven Formula. All you've got to do is get onto that Mental Purpose community, get your email in there, then DM or private message me that you want that ebook. It's yours. All right. If you want coaching, you need anything from us, you know where to go. Just, DM me on Facebook at Mental Purpose Podcast. Go to the website, ianlobas.com or mentalpurposepodcast.com. If you want to come to one of our groundbreaking frontrunner personal involvement retreats, we've got one coming up in November. There's a couple seats left. Then frontrunner.group, or hit us up on Instagram or ask in the Facebook page. We're going to be promoting it pretty soon, starting in like end of August, early September. So you got everything you possibly could need. The only thing you need to do is make a choice to be on purpose. And when you do, then you'll make different choices. You'll make more serving choices, and you'll get involved with what we've got, and you'll get involved with other people and what they've got, and you will shift and change and evolve your life. And however we can be a part of that, however we can help, tell us, let us know, and we are dedicated to make sure that happens. So here you go. This is Forrest Rivers. Enjoy. All right, Forrest, let's do this thing, man. It shouldn't be, but this is a controversial topic, right? COVID. It's a controversial topic, especially because you and I are not going to talk about all the negative that happened in COVID. We're going to turn the leaf over, and we're going to speak about the other side of COVID and the positive and the cleansing, and not in a bad way, but in a great way. We're not going to negate the fact that COVID wreaked havoc on the world, that COVID took lives. We are not negating that at all. We're not downplaying that. We're very serious about that fact. And we also want to just showcase some positive things that happened from COVID, because it's something we entered into. It wasn't voluntary. We had to go through it. It is what it is. And for all the conspiracy theorists out there, we're not going to get into any of that.
Nope.
So hold your horses. Like, well, we can talk about stuff like that another time. We're just talking about the slowdown, the awakening. We're talking about what happened, and you're an expert on that. You wrote a book on that, and when I saw your one sheet, I was fascinated because I've always wanted to have this conversation. And like we were talking about before we hit record, I thought that 2020 was maybe the best year of my entire life. You know what I mean? Like, and I
felt the
sometimes
same
I'm
way.
embarrassed or like nervous to say that to people because I know some people who had a family member die or get really sick or they got really sick and again, I'm not downplaying that. I'm not negating that. But I do want to celebrate how wonderful of a year that was if you took advantage of the slowdown and the empty streets and the time to just reflect and walk by yourself and not have all those distractions, right?
So in the book, Ian, I couldn't agree more with everything you just said. In the book, I talk a lot about how I cite numerous examples of people I talked to who used the last year. I'll just give you a little rundown from the book.
Sure.
I cite an example of two of my friends who decided to become full-time farmers, organic farmers, and they moved off from the city into the countryside to grow food and contribute to their local economy in a way that brings them purpose. I have two other friends who decided to move off the grid. This is out in Colorado to Utah. And they wanted to just experiment with off-the-grid living. I know another person I spoke to who decided to take to the Appalachian Trail because that's a lifelong dream of theirs. I know another person who started a wilderness therapy center, and that's what I want to get into down the road. That's my dream for service. And I know someone who actually went out and is actually doing it right now. I have another friend who decided to use the time of the lockdown to explore his music more deeply and to commit his life to that. I have somebody else I talked about, a Cherokee elder named Myrtle Driver, based out of so right now I'm in the Smoky Mountains in North Carolina, and she lives on the
Beautiful.
eastern band of Cherokee Indians. Beautiful place. And she has single-handedly kept the Cherokee syllabary, their language, alive. And she's doubled down on her efforts during the pandemic to be able to do that. She's had more time to commit to that.
Sure.
All those examples I just brought up are, I could go on and on. Another friend of mine who's used this time to start up his own YouTube channel that's based on sort of nature to encourage people to get back outdoors.
Sure.
Particularly as a healing strategy for young men. And so lots of interesting. How do I say this? Again, I don't want to mitigate or underplay how much suffering
Sure.
has happened during this pandemic, but if you're able to get past the fear and you were able to see this for what it was a grand opportunity to self-reflect, contemplate,
Totally.
and come to a greater realization of how you want to spend your life with more purpose and meaning. And
Yeah.
If you didn't take that direction, I would argue you've been missing an amazing opportunity, and it's not
I
too
agree.
late. It's not
I
too
agree.
late still to
No.
go down that course.
No, the world's opening back up, and it was an awakening. And I have some pretty, I think, awakened friends that didn't take advantage of it as well as they could have, and they really got caught up in the politics of it and the government conspiracies and the world, Bill Gates and something like. And I had to unfriend these people because. Like, I get all that. And could all that be true? Sure. I don't deny that. Could it be a total hoax? Maybe. Someday in some universe, sure. Okay. I don't want to go into that with anybody. I don't want to go down that rabbit hole. It's a very dark black hole. But
all it does is brings you into it doesn't do anything for our own
no.
self-initiative.
No.
It doesn't do anything for our
Right.
own individual empowerments.
Right. We're running on a treadmill. We're burning energy and not going anywhere. And that's what I kept saying is like, all right, okay, I get it. Okay. The government planned this thing. Okay, sure. Like there are conspiracy theories that I totally buy into. I'm not going to get into them here, but I'm not the guy. Like I watch Ancient Aliens. I wonder how the Egyptians built the pyramids. Like I'm into that stuff. It's cool. Like why not explore additional possibilities?
That's not even as just a joke as an aside. That's not even that far out with all the UFO. Big report that's coming out in a week here. So,
so the thing is, there's so many different directions we could take this, and I want to drop two of the quotes that really like got me attracted to you. And this book. But you got to remember, Men on Purpose podcast was built in COVID time, right? Like in January of 2020, my wife and I said to each other, what do we want to do with our real estate business? And I said, I don't want to keep running this because it's not serving us anymore. It's just providing us money. I mean, I'm not happy, and I don't want the clients to be unhappy. I love these clients we work with. We've been very blessed with referral after referral from these amazing clients. And I don't think I'm serving them at the highest level anymore, and I think we need to go ahead and throw the towel in. She said, well, the universe will make the decision on when the towel gets thrown and when the stop point is. And I said, okay, I'm cool with that. And she said, well, what else do we want to do? And I said, we're going to throttle down on the coaching business. Because the coaching business, as I was telling you before, is where my heart is. It's where my fulfillment is. It's where my passion is. I found my passion in coaching and in podcasting. And then
inspirational. I've been getting involved in inspirational speaking, Ian. Totally. And it is, on these spiritual themes, it is empowering to get involved in the coaching area. Because guess what? You're learning, as you're coaching others, you're learning a lot about yourself too. And if you do it the right way, you start to wonder who's the coach. Really, it becomes that barrier gets broken down.
Yeah. By March of 2020, I was at the New Media Summit right the week before COVID, like official was like the Tuesday I got back. I got back on a Sunday. That Tuesday was like everybody out at home, masks on, that kind of thing. And the great toilet paper or paper towel shortage or whatever it was. I remember that. But I said to my wife, you know what? This isn't going to be a joke. Like, this isn't going to be a game. This is real. Like, this isn't going to be something that's just a quick, the news made this shit up to get ratings. This is pretty nasty. Like, if the entire world is on the same page, then there's got to be some validity to this. Not in terms of, again, it doesn't mean that it is totally real. It means that it was real for this world, however it came to be. Mm-hmm. And I'm not playing with however it came to be. I'm playing with, I have children. It is what it is. It's here. It's happened. How can I get through this in the best of my ability? How can I take advantage of this time that I have where I'm sitting at home, I'm not out showing properties, I'm still on my coaching calls, but like they're not, my coaching calls have changed. Like maybe they're all stacked up in the morning and have the whole afternoon. Well, at that summit, that podcast convention, I got proposed to buy this podcast. And I've told this story all the time. And the owner said, look, I'm about to mothball this podcast because it's going nowhere. Do you want to buy it? And I said, yeah, I think the brand's really cool. I'll buy it. And now I got it, and I had to strip the thing down to bare metal and rebuild the whole thing. But that's okay. I had the time during COVID. My kids weren't in school. My wife was here. Like, I sat up in my room and I obsessed over this. The message and the mission, obsessed over it. But I also know other people that they realized that their identity, and I want to get your point on this or your view on this. Their identity of getting up every day, going to this one gym, going to this Starbucks to see the person or their friends are there, at 7 a.m. Then going back home, taking a shower, getting dressed in their suit, going to their office, wherever it is. That life, that identity was crippling to some people when they lost it because they couldn't get up and go to the gym. They couldn't get up, put their suit on, and go to the office, be away from their family, avoid their responsibilities. They were going nuts. What's your take on that identity shift that people were forced into and the subsequent, mental and emotional turmoil that took place inside of their heads until they had to, calibrate it a couple months later?
So that's an amazing question, Ian. And, I've been on this little podcast radio tour for a while and no one's asked me that question. So phenomenal question.
Thanks, man.
So I want to say this. I think what's happened we saw what happened to a lot of people was their they've identified so overly with their external identity. How about this? Ego identity. Their ego identity was popped when COVID hit. You know, my job, my money, my notoriety, my esteem, that outward identity we get from our jobs, and even if we're not passionate about it, that was popped. And I think what happened with COVID, we were forced to turn inwards. We were forced to have a shift from our ego consciousness into our spirit consciousness. I put another way, Ian, there was no more avoiding what's going on in here.
Totally.
We had to actually develop the courage to face us, to face ourselves. And why do you think, Ian, one of the biggest things that happened during COVID we all heard about was this explosion in mental health problems?
Yeah.
Because, when you're focused everything out there, like you said, the gym, come back, shower, go to work, do your thing, come home, and do the same thing again the next day. You kind of get in this pattern of avoidance. You're not really ever facing yourself truly. Well, guess what? COVID made us actually face ourselves. We had to face among the things we had to face. What is my higher purpose in life?
Yeah.
What is my higher purpose? This show being called Men on Purpose, I think that's a really interesting name for that. How many young men have float through life without any sense of purpose, right? We float through without a purpose. We're not encouraged really to ever follow our purpose. And COVID forced us to actually turn inwards a little bit and really face down some hard truths. How about this? Am I just a sheep who is following whatever society is telling me to do?
Yeah.
Or am I going to be actually a trailblazer and break off on my own and do something that I'm passionate about, that has a higher purpose and that serves people? And
that's such a good way of putting it. It sounds so simple, but that is very big. Am I actually serving the world, or am I just serving myself, pretending that the world's being served?
Ian, to be totally honest, I had to look at myself in the mirror. That's why I wrote this book. Part of the reason I wrote this book, one was to inspire people to look within and to take control over their lives and to do something with purpose and be empowered. But I'd be lying to you if I told you a lot of this book wasn't about therapy too for myself.
Sure.
I have to be honest. I identified so strong for when we came home and I shifted from my face-to-face classes to Zoom. Suddenly I had this barrier of the screen between me and my students. I wasn't able to, mentor them on a day-to-day basis and do all the things I do. Yeah, and feel the energy. And that took a hit on me at first, but then I was like, well, wait a minute. I've always wanted to really throw myself into inspirational speaking and writing, and here I am on this podcast tour. And that wouldn't have come about if it wasn't for COVID either. And I think this was a lot of people had to face, I hate to say this, Ian, face some uncomfortable truths about themselves that maybe they haven't really been living. And what do I mean by not really living? I mean just simply not following their life's purpose. Because I think everybody has the ability to tune into that and find their life's purpose. And that's one of the biggest things I think that came out of COVID. I mean, I have a buddy who's working in an office, has been for a while as an environmental engineer. He seemingly has everything, Ian, he could want. A wonderful soon-to-be wife, owns a couple houses, financially well, but he wasn't happy.
Yeah.
It wasn't making him happy. He wants something deeper out of life. He wants to feel his connection to all that is.
Yeah.
So, you know what he's doing now? He's woodworking.
I love that.
He's walked away from his job. He's becoming a woodworker, and he loves it. He's so passionate about it, and he loves making furniture and the whole process of finding the lumber, and seeing it from a blank slate to a,
So
something
cool.
that's finished and complete. So cool. And he's made that transition, and I think everybody has the capacity to follow their life's purpose. And that's something that COVID's done for us. It's given us that time to slow down, right?
Yeah.
We're so on the run in this society. Move. We finally had some time to turn within and figure out a different trajectory for our life.
That's totally true. I mean, there's so many times we talk about it on this show. I mean, my mission is this, what I'm about to say, like the rest of the Men on Purpose mission to elevate, educate, empower, enrich, and evolve men to be on purpose. That's to be on purpose. And then the second definition is to be on purpose, right? To be on purpose, not to do, not to crush it, not to crank it, but to sit with yourself and to be the real you. And then just to be on purpose and everything that you're doing, you're actually being on purpose, right? So there's two different meanings there. People always ask me, why is the B capitalized? And then from there, the rest of it is, so in order to live the most fulfilling, authentic, and regret-free lives possible, because our society, I have some attorney friends who, a couple of them didn't go back, and they are like on cloud nine. One of them moved to Costa Rica and like took his family and is like having this ball of a time. And the other ones put their suits back on and went back to the office, and they're locked in again. And I said, guys, you literally, you were on the boat, right? The boat's been like this the whole time. You've been wanting to get off this boat ride. You're sick as shit every day. You're miserable. And the boat pulled up next to the dock, and all you had to do was jump. And it was going to hurt to roll a little bit, but all you had to do was jump, and you were off that boat for good. But you didn't. You stayed on and endured this miserableness because of the fear of what it would be on the other side, like maybe the identity or the money.
Oh, Ian, you just hit a huge point right there, and that was another big point in my book too, is to say, we had two choices how to meet this moment. Meet it with fear. We could meet it with fear, or we could grow inner courage and actually take back our lives. And, that metaphor of the boat pulling up to the dock, all that takes is just a little bit of courage, and you're going to take a little bit of bumps and bruises, but you're not going to be sick as hell every day anymore. And it's I don't know, it's something in our society where we almost don't breed. We don't breed individual sense of empowerment. That's not something we tend to breed in our society anymore.
But how could we, though?
And I hope,
how could we? Because if like we were talking about it earlier, I wish we actually would have pushed record much earlier than we did. I'll have to bring all the stuff back up we talked about. But if you have a bunch of people that are empowered and individualized, and they're all thinking about businesses they could create and ways that they could go on amazing vacations and take care of their own mental health and not blame everybody else for their problems.
Right, and serve their communities.
Totally. Yeah.
Where you have a network of businesses that are serving their communities, rather than making everybody dependent on handouts and other structures to take care of them. That would be a true local economy. If we could move towards that.
And considering what we live in this, if you want to call America capitalistic, that's fine, you can. Or democratic, that's fine, you can. I have a little different view on that. I'm sure you do too. But it would destroy the fabric of what we think is the land of opportunity. Because the land of opportunity is only there if you have an opportunity to get opportunity, in my opinion. Because there are so many people that are downtrodden in this country. I mean, look, I live part-time in Los Angeles. Like, roll through those streets near Venice Beach or down in Hyde Park. I mean, it is tent city after tent city after tent city after tent city. It's one of the biggest economies in the world, the state of California, and Los Angeles is one of the big drivers. Like, there could be something done. Listen, I'm not a politician, and I don't know the depth, and I don't know the backgrounds, but there's got to be something you could do to help these people out. There's got to be. But there's so many people out there that are going, well, if they don't help themselves, then fuck them. But really, though, they just need a little hand. They need a hand. They don't need you to wipe their ass. They need just a hand up off the ground, and then they just what
we need.
Go that way. You'll find opportunity that way.
Yeah, a little mentoring and just community compassion is what we need. And in order to get to community compassion, and in order to empower people, we need individuals to awaken themselves. You know, it's funny, like the people have this vision. I don't want to go off track here, but people have this vision that change comes about always from the top down. You know, the dictates from the collective. Real change, real awakening starts with each one of us as individuals, and then, you know, us all serving each other through the spirit of love and compassion. But to get to that point, we have to first empower ourselves to help out others. You know, and that's some tough work that, you know, I can tell you this, Ian, in the colleges, they don't encourage individuals to question, what is my life purpose?
No.
You know, how can I best find happiness in my life? That's not encouraged.
But it can't be. It can't be encouraged. It can't be, because you cannot be. You have to have cogs for the wheel. You have to have line workers for the assembly line. You have to have people to fit those desks, to type the stuff for $15 an hour. You have to have that, and there's nothing wrong with that. But you have to have those people, and if everybody is empowered, there are going to be people that believe that they're above that job, and they'll never take that job. So I get it. The society works when everybody can fit a role based on their belief in what's possible.
Well, isn't that interesting? Yeah. Yep. Isn't that interesting, Ian, that we're seeing that happen now, where when we're, quote, returning to normal, a lot of people don't want to return to work. It's not because they're lazy. Right. It's not because they're receiving too many handouts. They're not wanting to return to work because they've had a glimpse of what they could do that has more purpose and has more appreciation for what they're doing.
Yeah, that's a great point.
You know, it's
a great point. Think about it. Like your guy with the woodworking. Somebody could say, I'm sure there's somebody in their car right now, wherever they're listening to this. Yeah, well, that guy had a lot of money and he has the ability to do that. But I can tell you right now that when I started my real estate business in 2012, September 5th, 2012, I was $800,000 in debt. I was, my house was in foreclosure. I had literally overdrawn accounts. I had no money. My wife had just lost her job. And I remember sitting on my mom's couch like 3 days after I got my license. I went to the office a couple of days. I cried in my car every day. So scared. And I went to my mom's house and I said, Mom, you gotta give me something. Like the pain inside is so heavy. The fear, the anxiety. I feel like my organs are like coming apart. So she said, all right, just chill out. Like, here's some tea, here's a Valium. Like, get yourself under control. And I'm not advocating that. I'm just saying this is what I did in that moment. And then I fought through every day, all the negative talk in my head. I wouldn't take medication, even though the doctors were like, no, you have anxiety, it's fine, just take this. But I knew that it was situational. I knew that generalized anxiety disorder is not a thing, in my opinion, because I was diagnosed with that, but I knew it was situational because the moment I got a check, the anxiety went away. Holy shit, look at that. I didn't have to take medicine. I got a check. But then that bred me to go after the next deal, to build the business up, to continue to make more money and more money and more money. But all I was doing was running from that monster behind me. The fear of being broke again, the fear of, because I had made a lot of money in my 20s and then lost it all at 29 when I started my real estate business. And then by the time I turned around, it's like 2.5 years into the business, my daughter's born, and I'm locked into this identity that money will make me happy. Money will solve my problems. Mm-hmm. Money will help me avoid the shit that I don't want to deal with. But it never did. And that's what we talk about all the time on the show. That's what the mission is here, is to say, hey, snap out of this thing. Not the when this happens, I'll be. When that happens, I'll get. That's not real. It's not real at all. So COVID was a place for my wife and I to say, all right, look, this is real. We don't, like, when this storm is over, because all storms end, it is a fact. When this storm is over, where do we want to be? Do we want to be slinging real estate and unhappy?
It's amazing.
Or do we want to be running this coaching business and serving the world at the highest freaking level, most passion behind it, and like actually moving the needle in people's lives where people look back and go, damn, like, man, I coached with Ian and holy shit, like the guy just, you know, like, I mean, we've got clients that are 70 and we have clients that are 18, you know, like in some capacity, our curriculum, our dedication is helping these people move forward. They all got that because they got the right life happens for you versus life happens to you mindset when COVID hit.
I think that's a huge, huge, huge
Yeah.
point. And I guess what I'd say to the listeners is you always have control over this. You may not have control over the circumstances, but you have control over how you meet those circumstances. And I think to relate it to COVID, we had all of this very real suffering that was presented for us. Whether, you lost your job or whether you had someone close to you die or whether you got sick yourself, or whether you're suffering from mental health as a result of this very real suffering.
Sure.
But the question is, with the suffering there, how do you meet it? How do you meet it? What do you do in that moment when you're facing that intense suffering? Do you wither away and die, metaphorically? Or do you actually take control of your life and use that suffering to help you become stronger, more courageous, more innovative, more creative, and happier in the long run? And, I think, personally, Ian, I think COVID was a light post on our path of awakening, in a sense, to tell us it's time to take control of your lives. It's time to move in a different direction from just being a cog in the machine.
Totally. Yeah, I love that's. There's so many different directions that we could take this conversation. I just really enjoy having this open dialogue with somebody that not agrees with what I'm thinking, but sees what I'm seeing. I think that's probably it. I don't need you to agree with me. I love it if you disagree with me, and I love if I disagree with you. But I love that we're seeing what we're both seeing openly.
Well, I think what we're seeing is a real opportunity for self-empowerment. And I would also point out too that there are I mean, if I could just real quick outline other ways in which COVID has had positive impacts. One way is it's become okay. Let me back up a second. So, one of the biggest impediments for why many of us live in so much fear is our fear of death, our fear of our own mortality. That is a crippling fear for many, many, many millions of people, not only in this country, but in the world. Billions. Well, how about this? Every spiritual faith says to be able to live, or at least the mystics, I should say, the mystics of every faith says, particularly in the Eastern religions, Hinduism, Buddhism, Taoism, they all basically say you can't live fully your life until you come to terms with death. Ironically, once you become comfortable with your own death, then you can fully live life. And the reason's simple. Once you get over your biggest existential fear, Ian, what does losing a house mean? Or what is losing what is taking a chance on a new creative venture like a podcast or a book? What does that mean? What does that mean? And COVID has forced us to face down our fear of death, straight on, and that's been one benefit that's come out of this. We already talked about the search for meaning. It's led to that, a huge search for meaning. Creativity. I think there's a direct parallel between a burst of creativity like we're seeing with you starting a podcast, my friend starting a YouTube channel, woodworking. I have another buddy who's deciding to just drop his electrician job and go full out to tour musically. All those are examples of, creative fervor, and creation comes out of destruction. You have to pass through dark and suffering periods to be able to come out to more creative, innovative periods. And I think we're seeing that under COVID too. And I would point out this too. Nobody wishes for too much adversity in their life, but having too little adversity in their life can be crippling. And, this adversity that we're facing is leading to a huge explosion of creativity, arts, music, podcasts, YouTube channels, coaching businesses. Look at the self-help field right now. it's exploding.
need it.
You know why it's exploding? It's exploding.
Yep.
People need it. People need it, and there's a demand for it, and that's coming out of more people wanting to reflect and saying, aha, I sense that something's wrong. My life isn't moving the way I want it to. Another positive that's come out of COVID is, how about this? I think more of us are looking to connect with the earth.
I agree with that.
When we were done, getting outdoors, getting out. Do you know how vitally important that is? I read a statistic the other day, Ian, and it said that the average American, get this, the average American spends 97 to 99% of every day indoors. If you consider that 99% of our entire existence on this planet has been spent mostly outside, whether it's foraging for food or whether it's in the past, we depend on that connection to nature. And I think when you start removing people from nature, that has a very, very, how do I say it, detrimental impact on our mental health, on our physical well-being, on our spiritual health. And you know what COVID made a lot of people do?
Yeah.
Go back outside. Go start your garden.
Sure.
Go farm. Go, get your hands dirty again. I'm not a big hunter myself, but there were a lot of people who went out and started, fishing or hunting as a way to, instead of depending on industrial food chains. They ate. It's the eat what you kill movement. You don't take anything more than you need. But I know people who were engaging in that. And there's a lot that came out of it. More people were going outdoors than ever before. Going outside. You can't go to the suit. You can't go to the bar. You can't go to the office. So what do? You go outside. You go be outside again. That is vitally important. I can't emphasize that enough, how important it is to establish a connection with the natural world. And when you're not connected to nature, we become shells of who we really are.
It's not, you don't have to go crazy. You don't have to drive somewhere to go on some epic hike. You can literally, like my daughter and I last March and April, we walked down to the bottom of my street in my neighborhood. My neighborhood is like one road in, one road out, or same road in, same road out. It backs up to the Baltimore County Reservoir. And so it's beautiful back behind this neighborhood.
Great.
And we walked back there and we walked these trails and we found this cool series of little waterfalls and a stream. And then there was a swing that swung out over this like big, 10-foot drop off the rock where the waterfall is. And I used to I was walking it barefoot because I just wanted to feel it. And it was cold out, but I wanted to feel the ground. I wanted to get connected. But let me ask you something about, it's
That's
super
important.
Let me ask you something about mental health. So what percentage of the population do you think actually got clarity, or not even got clarity, but actually went in and started to understand and get awareness and illumination on what was actually going on inside of them and then started working on it? Do you think that's a pretty major part of the population, or do you think most people just kind of buried themselves in the news and just wanted to stay as dark as possible? Like they didn't have all the distractions from the outside, but they made up distractions on their inside world, not their inside body world, but their inside, like in their house world.
How about this, Ian? I think there were a substantial amount of people who did what you just said, created their own distractions and buried themselves in news and politics and all the, pardon my language, all the bullshit that we hear about, right? But I think there was a growing segment of the population. I don't know what the percentage is. Maybe 25%.
That's a lot.
30%.
Yeah.
It's a lot. I think prior to the pandemic, it might have been as low as 3 to 5%. And I think maybe now we're maybe working at 25% to 30% who are actually doing that inner work on themselves. It's growing. It's growing. And you know what? Here's a good thing. Once you start to awaken, you can try to deceive yourself, but you can't put that back to bed.
That's what I was just going to say.
You
cannot not know what you just found out about yourself, especially when you were like, I had somebody call me about coaching last May or June, and they said something about I'm so depressed because I miss my work family. And I said, well, how long since you've seen them? And he said, like, beginning of March. And I said, how many of them have reached out to you? And he said, none of them. And I said, well, no, you have your answer. They're not your work family. It was convenient for you guys to like each other because you were locked in a building together all day where somebody said you can't leave.
It's relationship. It's relationships of convenience
or proximity, almost like convenience and proximity. You probably wouldn't be friends with these people outside of your office, but you want to be a social butterfly. You want to have connections. So that's the person that you talk to. And he was like, shit, man, that kind of blows my mind. Like, I wonder how many other things I thought were real aren't real. And we went in for like 3 or 4 months and we actually explored that. What was real and what wasn't real? What was manufactured in his head based on proximity or convenience or environment, and what was actually real? And sad to say, it was a very low percentage that was actually real. But what he found out was how much time he was spending, and he doesn't mind me telling this story. I just won't tell you who he is. What he realized was how much time he wasn't spending, or he was spending on other things that he thought were important, and he wasn't spending time on the things that he said were important, which were the family, the home, the relationship with his wife, his parents who lived down the street, none of that stuff. And it kind of blew my mind a little bit, but blew his mind too, because he was like, oh my God, man, like without all this stuff, this noise, this frequency here, once I tuned into another frequency, it was a completely different radio station, like completely different. In Baltimore, you can't.
Well, that's why. Well, I was going to say that's why I think fostering, I think, like having whatever term you're comfortable with, having a daily time for prayer or meditation is vitally, vitally important. Because when your mind slows down, things come up. Oh, whoa, maybe. Whoa, what are my priorities at? What am I doing? Am I even mindful of my day at all? Am I, so just building off what you were saying, like with your friend, the example there, that it is very important to take time out of every day to check in with yourself, whether it's meditation, prayer, whatever term you're comfortable with. It could be something as simple as journaling. I was talking to a friend recently, and I recommended he just start taking an inventory every day. What are you finding meaning doing? What are the things that you can take out of your life that aren't moving you forward? What are your 1 week goals? Yeah. What are your 2 week goals? Yeah. What are your 1 month goals? And most people aren't, don't, it's not because people are dumb. It's because we've just been conditioned to be complacent and not just like so Ian, just like we brush our teeth every day, or just like we take a shower, why isn't checking in with ourselves up there with our daily routine?
Because it's never taught to us. It's like financial literacy and I think financial intelligence. It's never taught to us. But there's a deeper thing behind that. I mean, you can't have everybody in society checking in with themselves and being completely self-sufficient. You can't. The drug companies don't work. The advertising companies don't work. If somebody looks at an ad like I do or you do most likely, and you go, interesting concept there, that doesn't appeal to me, even though it's something maybe 10 years ago I would have totally done. You can't have people like that. You can't. A society doesn't work like that. Yep. I mean, it probably does, like in a society that we're not used to, like a indigenous tribe or people's society where there's no ego, or I'm sure there is in some capacity, but nobody's minimize ego, but the only way you get seniority is by the years you put in on the planet. That's it.
Well, I mean, I could tell you, I mean, in the Eastern Band of Cherokee Indians, my the beloved Cherokee elder who I'm friends with, Myrtle Driver, they respect her not because she has physical power or she has anything. They respect her because she's served her community. Mm-hmm. She's strong. She's seen as courageous. She's keeping their language alive. She's earned respect. And all the elders, it's not just her. There's males and females who have both earned that respect through their service, through their courage, through their wisdom, and they're self-empowered individuals.
Wouldn't it be cool if we were judged on the amount of service we actually gave back? That'd be interesting. I had that conversation with somebody the other day, and they were
Amazing.
like, because in COVID, I gotta make sure my microphone. You can hear me, right? Okay, my mic's not picking up here. It's okay.
Yep.
So in COVID, what they realized was that all of the, I'm telling you, I have some buddies that 85% of their life plus was realized to be a facade and something that was either one, not needed, two, not loved as much as they loved it. People they hung out with, things that they did, the suits that they wore, the car that they drove, the house they lived in, the places that they took vacations, like all of it turned out to be. And what I'm really happy to see is that some of them who were used to taking, $50,000 vacations, $20,000 vacations, $150,000 cars, that they're sitting in a blow up pool. They're sitting in like one of these Walmart pools in their backyard with their kids, and they're just being them, and they're just bonding. And we started saying, wouldn't it be cool if we had an organization like a mastermind or something where we came in, big swinging dick style, instead of saying, this is my net worth, this is how much money I have in my bank account. But you came in, you're like, yeah, just donated $300,000 to a charity. Beat that, or hey, what'd you guys do this weekend? We fed, like my friend Colleen here in Baltimore. She's got such a beautiful dedication to helping homeless people and feeding them lunches literally every Sunday, never fail, with her wife Jill. And wouldn't it be awesome if you were like, I just fed, helped 500 homeless people with some socks and some like ham and cheese sandwiches and some apples and some chips. And then you got one up by like, I fed 750. Granted, still egos in play, but you're serving the world. You're not going like, hey, my Benz is faster than your Benz, which is still cool in its own respect, but not anything compared to service to the world. It's
just material. Yeah. You can't service is of the spirit.
Yeah.
It's real. It's authentic. It's a reflection of your inner self. And the all those material things, they're a distraction. You can't take that with you when you die. That doesn't matter. You can't take that with you when you die. And I think it would be great if we had a society where service was held at the highest.
You're always trying to one up your buddy by just serving harder or serving more people. I mean, think about it. You're always going to have competition. You're always going to have ego. What if you had it in service versus materialism or money? That'd be cool as shit. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, you direct it. Yep. That'd be great. You would direct that into service. It would be beneficial.
So we have the Men on Purpose the Men on Purpose community, which by the time this airs, it has a couple hundred members because it's But when we're recording this June 18th, it has like 100 members already. I think something close to that, like 85. And now we're probably at a couple hundred or maybe more. And I'm actually going to propose that in there. Because I don't want anything like, I don't care about how many houses you bought or how much passive income you have. I don't care about any of that. I want who you are, not what you do or what you have. Now we can talk about the stuff that you have and the stuff that you do after the fact, and that's totally fine. I don't negate any of that. But I wanted a society. I wanted an ecosystem, whether it's me and my buddy or me and 1,000 people or 5,000 people or 1,000,000 people, where we brag about our service. We brag about the spiritual aspect, our emotional connection and intelligence.
Yes.
Well, I told my wife I loved her 16 times this week. Like, we're always going to have competition. We're always going to be egoed out in some capacity, in some way with our buddies. But wouldn't it be cool to be comparing each other?
Channeling that ego into actually productive.
Yeah, I mean, look, it's a crazy idea, but I'm going to do that. Men on Purpose. Make sure you join that. Make sure you join Men on Purpose community. You can go on there today and just and my wife let you in. Yeah, it's the podcast.
Men on Purpose community.
Just not podcast. Just
cool.
Men
that
on
sounds
Purpose
awesome.
community on Facebook, and there's some really cool stuff. We got master classes in there. We've got all kinds of cool stuff in there. Anyway, shameless plug. Yeah. So
that sounds awesome.
I want to I mean, I could talk to you for like 3 hours, and I want to just what can people do? Like in wrapping this up, what can people do if they didn't take advantage as much as they could have, or if they are listening to us going, well, guys, I don't know, I didn't think COVID was that big of a thing, or like not an advantage, but an opportunity for growth and change and transformation. But they are listening to us, so they're somewhat serious about understanding this. And obviously, in order to get growth, you've got to get out of your own way. You've got to commit to the growth. You've got to get out of your own way. You've got to make choices in the moment to not go left, but to keep going, to go right and go into the dark stuff that you don't know, don't understand. It's scary, but it's better than going left and staying on the track, on the wheel that just keeps rotating in a vicious cycle. So what can you recommend to somebody who listens to this today and says, well, all right, Forrest sounds pretty believable. That's cool. How can I find opportunity through this thing that, look, we're not out of it, but we're not in it still. What can people do?
I think one thing that everybody can do is, I mentioned earlier, start taking an inventory of your life right now. Pull out a journal, start very basic. Actually, better yet, go find a park or a woodlands or a reservoir. It doesn't have to be something crazy. It doesn't have to be like, an epic mountain hike. It can be something in your backyard. Sit down with a journal. Although epic mountain hikes are amazing, and I recommend it. I'm always out on mountain hikes, because I live in the mountains. But you don't need that, though. You just go outside, be with yourself, and take an inventory of your life. Make 2 lists or 2, put a line down the middle of the paper. On one side, things in my life that bring me happiness and fulfillment. On the right side, things in my life that don't bring me fulfillment. And, right there, you're going to find a lot of self-discovery in that process. You're going to figure out, oh my gosh, I may be living an illusion or a lie within myself. Taking an inventory of your life is really good. And start from there. Start very simple. A basic walk in the woods or a reservoir or your backyard, whatever it may be. Go somewhere where you can be quiet, still, and make an honest inventory of your life and start there. It is never too late. Just because you didn't take advantage of COVID to start forging a path, that's okay. You'll be fine. You can start now. It's never too late. And I think when you do that, if you can combine that with starting, that taking an inventory, you might have to do it every day for a while. That might not just be a one-day thing.
You got to build that habit. Yeah.
Weeks, months, years. I check in all the time. When I'm not journaling it might be years. Sometimes when if I haven't journaled myself or taking my own inventory, if it's been far too long, I'm like, what am I missing? There's got to be something wrong right now because I haven't come back to this in a while. So that always helps. And in cultivating, a daily prayer or meditation within yourself. There are numerous ways to meditate. There are numerous ways to pray. Start that personal relationship with however you conceive of a higher power. It could be Buddha, it could be Christ, it could be the earth, it could be whatever it is. Find that higher power within yourself. That would be my recommendations right now. Personal inventory and starting a daily prayer, meditation practice, and get outside. There's my last one. Get outside. Get into nature, Yeah,
I love that, man. I love that. So simple. It really is so simple. Like that, I wrote that as you were describing it, and I'm looking at this little, T chart. That's so simple. It just takes honesty. It just takes you to be like, you know what? I talked about this yesterday on a recording I did. I have a buddy of mine, and he said, "Look, man, I play golf to get out of my house. I hate golf. I play golf to get out of my house." Because for 6 hours, I get an excuse to not have to deal with my kids. And I said, well, it's unfortunate because all you'd have to do is just break through what's holding you back, and you can actually communicate with your wife and your kids. And he said, I'm just not ready for that. I don't want to. And I said, okay. I know other people that will mow their lawn or we talked about this like we in a course that I coach right now. We're talking about distraction tactics to avoid dealing with the things you need to deal with, and it's like those are them. So tell everybody where they can get your book, COVID-19 and Humanity's Spiritual Awakening. I'm not, it's funny because people are like, are you pitching books? I'm like, no, I have these people on because they're going to create great conversation and teach us something. And in return, like, I want to tell you about their book,
Yeah. No,
Thanks,
this has been an awesome conversation, Ian. Oh my gosh. I've really appreciated this a lot. The book is called COVID-19 Humanity's Spiritual Awakening. You can pick it up on Barnes and Noble, on Amazon. It's available in both Kindle and paper book edition. And you can find me on my website, forrestrivers.com. You can contact me. I'm always interested in having conversation with people.
Totally.
We can continue this conversation.
Yeah, I love that, man. Well, thank you for being here. And on behalf of you and I'm saying to anybody that was affected, I want to say it again, anybody that was affected in a negative manner, if they had someone they knew got sick or passed away, our prayers, our energy are with you. And we're thinking about you. This wasn't that conversation. We just wanted to
100%.
Celebrate and spotlight a different conversation than a lot of people are having about the negative implications and the stuff that's happened through COVID. So don't be angry at us. We just wanted to say, like, there are people out there that did benefit, gain, and I'm not talking like monetarily, like illegally or something. I'm saying they took advantage of a slowdown, of an awakening, of an opportunity, and we are not forgetting about the fact that hundreds of thousands of people didn't make it through this. So I just wanted to make sure that's very, very clear. We have a lot of sympathy and empathy for the shit that went on during COVID. Yeah.
Absolutely. Right. In fact, I would just simply say to that, the premise of my entire book starts with the acknowledgement of that tremendous suffering people have been through. And my question is, how do we meet that suffering? And if we meet that suffering with fearlessly, it can move us forward.
Totally. So here's what I'm going to end with. This is your quote, but I'm going to say it because it's from your book that I really like. In the end, this much is certain. Our collective healing will bring us exponentially closer toward arriving at greater understanding of both self and others one day soon. The peaceful and loving world that we all know is possible will actually become a reality. It's great. I think that's so well said. It's really well said.
I truly believe that.
Thanks for being here, brother. I appreciate you, man. Thank you.
Man, I appreciate it too. Ian, great show. You're doing a tremendous service for listeners, viewers.
Love it, man.
And,
well,
it was an honor to be on
audience,
your podcast.
Thank you for listening. You know where to go if you need us. If you need Forrest, forrestrivers.com. If you need me, ianlobas.com or mentalpurposepodcast.com. And we will catch you on the next one. Thanks.